I was in my mother's living room in Pictou, and I was on a couch that doesn't exist. So I was like with my girlfriend from junior high, who I see like once a year, and I was just with her in this like Afghan that my grandmother made. It's like brown and green and orange, beige, I think, all like little squares, and we're just like, I guess like snuggling or cuddling, and I'm like spooning her in on this couch, and then and I just had this like really warm feeling of like love, and that's really all the dream was. But I woke up and I just had like a really strong feeling. But when I got to work, I wrote just like a little stanza. We were sharing a blanket on my mother's couch. She was confused to see me with somebody else. I still love you in my dreams.
In my I'm a bird with my hands in my dream where I had escaped from prison or something with one of my friends, and we were walking along this bridge, and suddenly the temperature dropped, and it was like this harsh crunching sound, and then all of the cars stopped and everybody stopped moving except for me and my friend that I was with. So we looked in the cars, and like suddenly there was no one in the cars. They were just completely empty. And then the temperature dropped again with this huge like crunching sound, and it was freezing. So we suddenly knew that the world was going to end. So we found shelter in this abandoned house. And then like all of my friends were there, and we were trying to listen to the radio, and it was just all this static, and we couldn't find anything and couldn't see the numbers, because like I find often in dreams like you can't see the numbers, or like can't dial numbers, or can't remember things. And but outside was this little boy with a giant eyeball for a face, and it was just black, and it opened up like it peeled back. It was like it had a cross in the middle, and it just peeled back the layers like a gecko's foot, like just peeled back. And I was just like, what the fuck, this is the apocalypse. It's all,
I don't know, the notion of like love and the ability to like have an emotional connection with people I find in dreams is always kind of like upsetting, due to the fact that if you like, you know, you feel this intense emotional and you have this kind of idea that you're connected with these people, but it's still like fleeting because you wake up, right? And then there's immediately just like, well, that's not real. There's like a detachment, but you're still stuck with this notion that like there was something real to this like relationship you had, but it's not, like it's still like taken away from like the ability to like understand it. So then when you're in a dream, you always feel this kind of like apprehension to even like relate to yourself at that point, because you don't know like how it's like, you know, the immediate connection of like impact of like someone else you see as someone else in a dream is still like, you still have the full visceral force of their emotion, if not more, because you're totally like unrestricted. Any emotion you feel immediately, I find, influences the entire environment. The entire environment immediately becomes reciprocal to like the emotion you're feeling, and there's kind of like that chain reaction. It is like the emotion becomes out of control, or like your idea of it, like, you know, comes out of control and all consumes the entire like relation to like, you know, forms and colors and even like the places themselves, and like whether there's a population or there's not population, and like abstract kind of like removes into like these kind of like I guess it'd be like in the theater, like, you know, when the environment like mirrors the entire world, and that's like purely done in, I think, a dream. And I think that's what's like, it could be beautiful but also very like terrifying and like traumatic.
I have one recurring dream, but the thing is like I remember the feeling I have when I dream it, when I wake up, but I don't remember what it's about. But I know, because I'll wake up in the morning and have that same feeling, like, I don't know what it does, but it just, I can tell I've had it, and I'm like, that dream. I think it's really epic, but I don't know.
Sometimes I will see stuff in dreams that I have, like, it's so clear, like, it's so clear, but I've never seen it in my life. I have no idea, like, how I'm seeing it, but it's like I'm somewhere else and I'm seeing exactly what that is, but I've never been there.
They don't usually look like the people I know. I just know that they're those people. Like one time my brother looked like Ellen DeGeneres, but like my brother does not look like Ellen DeGeneres, but I knew that it was my brother. I knew it. You know, I had that feeling like this is my brother, Ellen.
Living, I find, when you have a dream and you felt like you've been there, you like end up in a location, like you seem, it's kind of like your normal day-to-day life, and you're like actually in the dream and you're doing your things, and it's like you almost, and you feel like you have a history to it, like you feel like you've been in this place, and like you kind of follow through it sequentially, and then at some point you end up like reappearing in the past, but you know where it's leading, and you kind of like have this kind of attempt to connect the two like fragments of this kind of like narration that exists.
I try to write in my dreams sometimes, and I know that's really hard, or like reading maps, but sometimes I'll do it, and it just, like when you try to write, it's so slow, or your pen breaks, or water gets on the paper, and all these things happen, but I always like keep trying to do it.
Not so much, I always like doing art in dreams, I find is interesting, like building a building in like a dream, or doing a painting, or creating like I like watching movies in dreams, because I find you end up sometimes falling into them, and like the narration of like graphic imagery and stuff like that. It's always like, I remember like there was like a lot of whites, and like, you know, someone dies or something like that, and like the relation you have to a direct emotional experience to watching a movie is so much more direct when you have that cinematic view, but you're not like, there's nowhere else, you're only seeing the movie, and there's no like limits to the frame. It's just like it's there, and you're immediately encapsulated in like that kind of like emotional state.
So you know when you have a dream and you're mad at someone, and you wake up and you're actually pissed off at that person for no reason, but you just, it's like that, but with everything.
Most of my dreams function as powerful as like real memories, and I have a very big time like discerning like which one is like much more like traumatizing or real in like a post, like in like a memory sense. I guess the idea of memory comes into the importance of like how I then how you understand your memories when you start experiencing, like for me it's just as real to have experienced these kind of like abstract fragments of like these narrated dreams as it is to like then journey into like remember something I did say like 3 years ago in Montreal, or like 3 years ago like on the streets in like, you know, rural town.
I feel like my dreams like lead into my life a whole lot, like with my writing and stuff like that, I guess. Sometimes I write before I go to bed, and sometimes that'll kind of carry through, or I'll wake up in the morning and be inspired to write something. I write a lot of like free verse poetry that doesn't really make it. Sometimes they're in zines, sometimes they don't go much farther than that, but a lot of that is like collage type stuff that happens. But I get the feeling a lot that I like kind of like deja vu, but like maybe I'll be like walking somewhere like through a mall and hear a song and it's familiar, and a lot of the times I just chalk it up to like having heard it in my dream.
Yeah, like I'll have a dream, and then kind of 6 months later it happens, but different, or like the lesson kind of comes true.
I always dreamt about this church. I always dreamt about rickety stairwells and really tall stairs. So when I was in 5th grade, we went on a field trip to this old this old fire station that had this really rickety old staircase that went up, and I was like, I dreamt about this, and I'm not entirely sure if it's my mind filling it in and seeing it for the first time, and then relating that back to my dream and thinking, oh, this imagery fits because it's similar to that feeling that I had in the dream, so therefore it was in my dream, but I don't think it necessarily ever is.
Because I have this like reoccurring dream about unicorns and ponies and this great like land in the clouds. There's like butterflies and trees, and I love it to death. It's my favorite dream. It's just like...